Hello, Aubrey. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. Would you say that you are an old-fashioned person in any respects?
Sometimes, yeah. I we're going to talk about this in one of the sample answers, but I think when it comes to hobbies, I'm a little
Yeah.
old-fashioned. I'm not really checking out like the newest. My daughters use like an iPad with a pencil to draw and design, and I'm like, I'm
Oh.
good with like paper and
Yeah.
pencils. A little old-fashioned
Yeah.
of me,
I love it. I think it's fun being old-fashioned in,
right?
some ways. All right, guys, so that is one word that we will use today. We're going to give you some great vocabulary, that has to do with the word outdated. So, how did we decide on this episode today?
Yeah, we got a great question from a listener, Mohammed, who just said, "What is the meaning of outdated?"
Mm,
And we realized this is such a great vocab, like such a great idea for so many speaking answers to
mhm.
share that either something you do is outdated, or
Yeah,
maybe that a friend does, or policies that a government has might be
sure.
outdated. This is so useful for IELTS speaking and writing.
Yes, totally. Yeah, today's vocabulary, guys, is very useful for speaking and writing. So, we're going to teach you four phrases. Including outdated, and we're going to give you example sentences of how you can use these phrases on the speaking exam. So
Yes.
let's get into it. Outdated. What does outdated mean?
Yeah, this means something that is no longer either in fashion or useful anymore. Like
Mm,
at one time, it might have been trendy, it might have been useful, but no
yeah.
longer.
Exactly, exactly. So, if I were to ask you, Aubrey, a part three question like, in your culture, have ideas about gender roles changed recently? How could you use outdated?
Yeah, I could say, the idea that one's role in life is tied to their gender is extremely outdated. Women can work and men can be stay at home parents now. In fact, I know three couples personally that have structured their partnership in this way. That's a really good example. Jessica actually
It's
wrote that
great.
example, and it's fantastic. Well done.
Thank you so much. I have practiced a lot. And that's true. I because I wrote that and it's true. I know like 3 families where the dads actually are the stay-at-home parents, and I find that very interesting.
Yeah, my daughter Gigi just went to a sleepover, and she came back and she was like, she has 2 moms, her mom this, and I was like, "I love that so much." I'm glad that and she didn't even Georgia was like, "This is normal. Why wouldn't she have 2 moms?" I love it.
No big deal. It's fine.
Yeah, yeah,
There's a lot of love to go around, guys.
exactly.
Okay, so the next word is old-fashioned. Do you think this is different than outdated?
It's very similar,
Mhm.
right? But often we'll use it less about we use it for clothing, we use it for language. It's very similar. I would say these are pretty synonymous.
I think, outdated though it has a meaning where like it's not good anymore, right? But old fashioned doesn't
Mm,
necessarily have that meaning, right? Old
that's a good
fashioned
point.
just means something is like it was in the past. Could be good, could be bad. No judgment.
That's true, I agree. Outdated has more of a negative connotation that,
Mhm.
like, nobody wants to do this now,
Yeah.
whereas old-fashioned is like, yeah, it used to be more trendy, but it might still be useful.
Yeah. So I like the phrase old timey to be the same as old fashioned. So it's a little
Yes.
bit slangy. So reserve that for the speaking exam, but old timey is still very fun. All right, Aubrey. So if I were to ask you, do you prefer shopping online or in person? How would you use that vocab?
Yeah, I could say I prefer to shop in person. I know this is a bit old-fashioned with everyone making purchases online. It's definitely more convenient to pull up your phone and have packages delivered without ever leaving your house. However, especially for clothing, I want to
Mm.
be able to try it on before buying.
Nice. Excellent. Okay, the next word, guys, is antiquated. This is a very formal word, and I have seen students attempt to use this without
Mm,
knowing exactly what it means. I think some people, well, I've seen students use it when they think it's the same as like ancient, right? Like super, super old, ancient. And it's not
interesting.
exactly ancient, right? It can be something super, super old, but that but it also just could be something kind of old. You know what I mean? So it's not exactly the same as ancient. Just think of the word antique, guys. You might know the word antique already. People go antique shopping, right? And they find like cool old like bowls or gadgets or something, right?
Yeah.
Now that those things aren't ancient, but they are very old.
And it's interesting to think about, you could just say something looks antiquated, where,
Yeah,
it's actually not old at all. Like it was made now, but it sort of maybe has that patina glaze to make it look like it's an antique.
totally, totally. And that is how it's used in these samples. So if the part two question was describe a small town you have been to, Aubrey, how can we use antiquated there?
I might say, well, the downtown looked quite antiquated, but that's precisely why it was so charming. There were no chain stores or restaurants. Everything looked like a mom and pop shop that you could have seen 50 years ago. I love those kind of towns. We drive through a bunch of them driving from Arizona to Idaho. They're all
Yeah,
these
I bet.
cute little old downtowns. I love it.
I feel like every suburb and town now has like one like a main street that
The
looks
old Main
antiquated
Street.
now. They like just everybody's doing that now.
Totally. It's very hip. It's very trendy. It is not old fashioned to have an antiquated downtown.
I know, I know. All right, what is the last phrase today?
All right, the last one is behind the times. And this is often, we might say this about like a grandparent or me compared to my teenagers. Like you're
Mhm.
not updated on the newest trendy, fashion or language or whatever it is. You could say
Right.
someone is behind the times.
Totally, totally. I'm pretty sure our kids think we are behind the times
Absolutely.
in a lot of ways.
Yeah. So, Jessica, if you
Hmm.
were asked in a part one question, what is a hobby you enjoy?
Mhm.
How might you answer?
I actually started coloring with my son. And at first, I felt like, what are you doing, Jessica? This is really behind the times. But it was so relaxing and kind of addictive. And now I wish I had more time to just sit and color.
I love it. I love when we read the examples we've written for ourselves.
I know.
I totally wrote that for myself, so I had to quickly change it to Jessica. I did started there was like an adult coloring book and we started coloring and I was kind of feeling like this is why am I coloring? But it was actually really relaxing.
It is that is such like a trendy hobby now too, coloring, guys. I don't know if this
Totally.
is happening in your cultures, but for the
I'm
past
curious.
I would say like 5 years here in the States, there like bars will have coloring nights and stuff. Like this is a full-on adult
Yeah.
hobby.
And there's a lot of, like, adult coloring books
Yeah.
marketed that way, where it's not
Mhm.
like the children's coloring book, they're, like, really intricate drawings where it's, like, detailed, precise coloring,
Yeah.
and it's like, if you have anxiety, I recommend it. It's just a way to, like,
Totally.
not think about anything and just relax.
Yeah, for sure. It's a meditative
Yes,
process, I would say.
absolutely.
All right, guys. If you have any IELTS questions for us, write support at allearsenglish.com and we can give you a shout out in a future episode.
Awesome, yes, and we will see you guys next week. Thanks,
Sounds
Jessica.
good. Thanks, Aubrey. Bye.
Bye.